Let's just quickly start in Libya. I mean, what do you see happening to oil prices as this story unfolds? Do you think that because OPEC can cover any Libyan shortfall, the prices are perhaps overvalued at the moment?
Well, all commodity prices have run up very substantially in the last, say, 6 months. Copper, oil, nickel, and so forth. And they're all due for a correction. The question is what happens thereafter. And quite frankly, I don't think that the world can produce sufficient oil in a Goldilocks scenario whereby the developed world, Europe, the US, Japan recovers and the emerging world continues to grow. In that case, the demand will outstrip the production facilities, and so prices will go up if everything looks good. And if everything collapses in the world and we have turmoil in the Middle East and so forth, then obviously supplies will be curtailed very substantially. Prices will go ballistic on the upside. So in either scenario, yes.
Okay. Now, you talked about collapsing there. In your most recent report, yes, you wrote a note to investors, and I will quote, "I strongly suggest that my readers take out some form of insurance against systemic failure. For example, a piece of property in the middle of nowhere could be one of the very few assets to provide you with security in the basic commodities for survival."
Yes.
You're talking about a doomsday scenario here. Why,
yes,
why now? What's worrying you?
Well, I think I've been concerned for quite some time that in the Western world, notably in the US, we had excessive credit growth. And the excessive credit growth, especially in the years 2000 to 2007, caused the financial crisis. And now excessive private credit growth has been replaced by excessive government credit growth.
Which is
even worse.
Right.
The private sector is actually quite efficient. It's the government that is usually inefficient. So I think that we're postponing the problems, and one day the hour of truth will happen, and then the global economy, and in particular the financial system with all the derivatives and leverage and so forth, will collapse, and then you have a rebooting. It's like when your computer crashes, you have to reboot it.
Okay, now you are a well-known pessimist. I think that's a fair
yes,
description of you.
I'm actually also quite optimistic. I drive motorcycles in Thailand.
Or foolhardy, some would
yes,
say.
Yes.
But, okay, assuming to the bears out there, how do you play it? How do you play this market? What do you do?
Well, I think that if you look at different asset classes, cash, which is usually the safest in the world, and government bonds, these two asset classes in my scenario of eventual complete collapse are very dangerous. So then you have asset classes like equities, they can go down, of course, and you have real estate can also go down, precious metals can also go down, but at least you still have something. So I would suggest to investors, if you're ultra pessimistic about the eventual outcome, before it happens, you'll have massive money printing. Then you'll have war. And in both instances, you don't want to be in cash and government bonds. You want to be in equities, precious metals, and commodities, and real estate in the countryside.